All right, we're live. I'm going to tag a few folks in here just because it helps a little bit. There we go. All right, so I tagged a couple of people in here just so that we increase our visibility. And let me see if I can lighten my page up there. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about stress, and we're going to get a little sciencey, and I'm really excited because I just learned some really cool stuff when I was looking for specific research on an ingredient that's actually in one of our supplements that help with stress and sleep. So we'll talk about that tonight, and I just kind of want to give a couple of minutes. I'm kind of stalling here to make sure that we have live on Facebook that's actually working. I'm pretty sure I'm in the right spot. We should be in the Inspiring Wellness group. This is a group for my organization only. So if you're in this group, it's because you are somewhere in my organization, someone on my team, if it wasn't me, helped get you your wholesale account. And so by being in this group, you get a little bit more extra continuing education that I don't give the general public. So I did some due diligence, and I have a great example of stress that I'm going to share with you guys that I experienced a couple of hours ago, actually, and what I did for that. So tonight we're going to talk about stress, but more importantly, we're going to get a little more science, and we're going to talk about cortisol. This is something I do touch on in most of my basic classes and when I do follow-up appointments with brand new customers, because I think it is so important. And I wanted to do its due diligence tonight to help bring you guys some tools to help you with a pretty big aspect of health. So let me get my notes here, and they are all over the place. I wrote down so many notes in different colors so I wouldn't forget to read certain things to you. So I am going to read from my notes, otherwise I'm going to end up going on all these bunny trails, and we don't want that because I only have 30 minutes and I have no way to time myself. So I'm just going to talk until what I think is 30 minutes, and then we'll just end it today. So stress is a big health concern, and most of the people that I talk to when I'm helping them getting started with essential oils, stress is in their top 5 for sure, health issues that they're dealing with. So 75 to 90% of doctor visits are conditions that are stress related. I would say that almost 100% of degenerative diseases are also stress related. But it's possible you might find some out there that aren't, but that's kind of just what I have come to understand. So the thing is, stress is part of everyday life. It's pretty much unavoidable. We have good stress, we have bad stress, which we'll talk about as well. But the thing is, because of the way our current society is right now, stress is something we experience sometimes every single hour of the day. And the things that we eat and the interactions that we have with people, all of that contributes to the stress that we experience. So we're going to talk about that as well tonight. We're going to talk about chronic stress as well and some things that you can do. Okay, so what is stress and what is cortisol? So basically, stress and cortisol help us to perform, and when it goes off balance. So I talk a lot about homeostasis. So that'd be a good example of that. When we go off balance with the cortisol, then we start to have symptoms, which I'm going to list here in a second. So the thing is, your whole body reacts to stress, depending on the type of stressful situation. So when we experience stress, what happens is our hypothalamus, which is our brain, sends a signal down into our adrenals, which is the, if you look at your kidneys, they look like a little kidney bean. Right on top of the kidneys is these little things called adrenals. I call them kidney hats because they just look like these little hats that are sitting on top of the kidneys. So when we experience stress, the brain sends a signal down to the adrenals to release cortisol, which is a hormone that then goes to the different parts of the body. So for example, if you are scared, let's say you're on a hike in the mountains and it's gorgeous and beautiful and you come across a bear, okay? What would happen is that cortisol would cause an increase in heart rate. It would cause like big time brain alertness, mental clarity, but it would decrease things like reproduction and the digestive system because our body doesn't need our reproductive system when we need to save our life. So those types of things will shut down. Now that kind of stress is unique. It's not something you experience on a regular basis. And that's actually when stress was designed, was actually kind of what it had in mind, was to help us perform better in different situations. So an example of maybe some helpful situations, that would be when you need to perform better, like an athletic thing or a music competition or something like that. It increases concentration and it helps you complete a task. So my example that I will share with you is, while I have a really good basic understanding of stress and cortisol, enough to maybe touch on it for about 5 or 10 minutes, today I wanted to give you guys a lot more information. So being the procrastinator that I am, then I waited until just a couple of hours ago to pull the research together that I had in my files to kind of put together in a really nice format so that it was easy for me to present and explain to you and for you to understand. So what was happening is I was experiencing that shortness of breath and big time concentration. And so I had to remind myself to just breathe. Just really breathe. And I was using my Balance essential oil to just really make sure that I wasn't forgetting to breathe and just relax, because I had plenty of time. I just needed that focused concentration. So it did help me out there. But when we get too much of that cortisol release and we get it too often, then we see health issues. And so I actually printed out, and I'm going to share in the comments below a couple of different articles that I found that I thought were really helpful. And I literally wanted to just read these articles to you because they were so good. But I will drop them in the comments so you have all the information that I got. And from Dr. Axe's website, he actually has this big, long article just on adrenal fatigue. But in there, he talks about the symptoms of high cortisol levels. And it's pretty long. You can see there's a lot of things here. So weight gain, especially around the abdomen or stomach, we call that the spare tire. A puffy, flushed face, mood swings, increased anxiety, fatigue and poor sleep, including that feeling of being tired but wired, which I actually had that Saturday night because I had a ton of stuff on my mind and I had a lot going on the next day, and I had something I was a little anxious about, and so I had that tired but wired situation until about 4 o'clock in the morning. It was pretty bad. So anyways, when I finally realized what was going on, I of course grabbed my essential oils. So increased urination. I remember experiencing this a lot as a child when I had to go to the dentist. Irregular periods and fertility problems. So if you're a woman and you go through a lot of stress, you might notice that it throws off your cycles. Higher susceptibility to infections. So we see like sores in the mouth and that kind of stuff a little bit more often. High blood pressure, acne or other changes in the skin, higher risk for bone fractures and osteoporosis. Muscle aches and pains, which is a big deal. We see that in kids a lot, actually. Changes in libido and excessive thirst. And then I found another article, or no, not another article, but another video where a doctor just kind of is explaining this process. And he threw out things like inflammation, brain fog, allergies, asthma, sleeping. And so then what happens is the medical community treats these symptoms like disease. And I found that interesting because I talk about a lot how the medical community doesn't address root causes. They address those symptoms and they treat them like disease. And I never really kind of phrased it like that. But what I love about essential oils is we're going after root causes. So I can definitely use oils for all of those symptoms for sure. And I have. But what's really cool, and this is what's so amazing about essential oils, is that the ingredients that are in them that are dealing with those symptoms are also addressing that root cause, which we'll get into. Okay, so back to my notes. So let's talk about some stress coping. So without essential oils involved, here are some ways that you can stress cope. And I'm really big on using a lot of different tools because I talk about essential oils being supportive to the body in the same way that like water and proper nutrition is. It's just another tool to help us be healthy. So other stress coping mechanisms is like getting really good sleep. I actually sleep with our toddler at night. He's still co-sleeping. And one of the things that my husband and I do to kind of give me that opportunity to get into a really good deep sleep is on Friday nights and on Saturday nights, he sleeps with the baby because he doesn't have to get up in the morning. And then I get to sleep in a quiet room with no kids and I just get a lot of good sleep. And then like Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm like high functioning on my game. So, exercise is really important. Get out and go for a walk. Put the kids in the stroller. Go to the playground. One of the things that I like to do is chase my kids around the playground. You know, you play the shark or crocodile on the playground and they have to stay up high. So we do that. Remember to breathe. So remember to put in your breathe oil. Put that over your chest with some coconut oil, and that is an amazing oil to help remember to breathe. Prayer or meditation, and then laughing. So I don't know if you guys notice, if you follow me on Facebook, I love having, I have a really good sense of humor, and I love just laughing at funny things, and sometimes my husband and I will have conversations in those little gifs, and it just makes life a lot lighter. So laugh and have a good time. Something I saw recently that actually got me laughing pretty good was when people were putting eyebrows on their dogs, and I started picturing doing that on my dog. He's black, so I'd have to use white, and I was like, I should totally do that. So just things like that, like just get a good laugh out about life. And then something else that's actually really important that actually does a lot for you is gratitude. Gratitude is actually the number one tool that I use when dealing with anxiety, fear, and worry. So get your gratitude out, have a little notebook at the end of the day, just write out the things that you're grateful for. And of course your essential oils, which we will give some of those. Okay, so let's talk about understanding cortisol. So I mentioned that when you're stressed, your brain sends a message down to your little kidney hats, your adrenals, and then that sends the cortisol out. Okay, so things that cause stress. So there's a couple of you joining me. Throw in some comments. What causes you stress specifically? In this society that we have right now, we've got the news. Oh my gosh, do we got the news? We're not going to talk about the news here, okay? This is an essential oil group. We have things like pregnancy, we have loss, we have trauma, which literally trauma could be anything. It could be like this horrific car accident to you were told something that you didn't like. I mean, it could be anything. Menopause, getting in a fight with your spouse or your best friend, a divorce, kids can be stress. So those things can all be stress. Deadlines at work, paying bills, having a mortgage, like all of that stress. I don't know about you guys, but I get a little stressed when there's a little bit more month at the end of the money, and that causes that cortisol to go up. So the thing about stress is you have a stressful situation, and when that stressful situation is done, you think, okay, I don't have stress. But what actually happens is stress accumulates in the adrenals, to put it simply. So even though the situation is past, it leaves that stress behind. And the thing is, the adrenal doesn't have an off switch. Okay, so once you get it going, it's on. And then, of course, you have chronic stress, so that doesn't help. So, let me see. Okay, so over the years, cortisol keeps building up. So that's why when you see people who have really stressful jobs, they end up in their 50s with major symptoms of stress. And those symptoms are like the check engine light flashing at you, and people will actually think they're having heart attacks. And so those are some major, like, at the end. So you're not going to have those kind of symptoms because you got in a car accident or because you were in college for 2 years or something like that. So that's more of a long-term situation. So we see the symptoms such as like for example, I mentioned weight loss. So we see symptoms like belly fat. So what happens is we exercise because we see that and we think, let's exercise. We start eating right. But here's the thing, cortisol is a dominating hormone. So we don't see a change. That's probably the worst in women because we tend to hold on to stress very easily. We take ownership of a lot of different parts of our life that we probably shouldn't. So I think it's worse for us too. So what happens is that dominating hormone, cortisol, it nullifies the other fat burning hormones, okay? Kind of cancels them out because of the way that it's dominating. So how do we turn cortisol off? So I found this amazing YouTube video, and if you just go on YouTube and you look up understanding cortisol, there's a doctor on there that actually has several videos that explains this. So I kind of grabbed some of his information to help me articulate this a little bit better. So to turn off the adrenals, we need to to turn off the cortisol, we need to love on our adrenals. We can do that with essential oils. There's also some other things like adrenal massage that you can do, acupressure, acupuncture, there's things like that. And just to give you a little idea, so even though our kidneys are back here and our adrenals are right above them, we do have some, since our body is just energy, you know, and the way we have, kind of like a computer, we have the circuits and stuff going. If you put your finger right on your sternum and go down an inch and split your fingers apart like this, those are also points for your adrenals too. So you can kind of get some oils on that location or get some oils on your back. Both are really good. So the number one oil to use for your adrenals is basil. So basil contains a constituent called linalool, and linalool is the number one ingredient that supports like regulation of cortisol. Because remember, we don't want it to go too low. We don't want it to be high. We want it to be balanced. And so linalool helps that. So I have this great book. It's kind of outdated, but it's called Essential Oils Unlocked by PJ Hanks. And so I just looked up linalool in here. And that's not the page. Oh, yes, it is the page. Okay, so linalool is found in basil, marjoram, lavender, cilantro, jasmine, coriander. So there's a lot of different oils. But here's the thing. I started to investigate the levels in which it is in those oils. And what I came to the conclusion is that basil and lavender were the highest. Basil is, it can be up to 55%. So that's the number they try to shoot for. And then lavender can be up to 41%. But here's the thing. Do you want to use lavender or basil? You know, I've been hearing people say lavender and basil together with some lemon and a glass of water is really good. I haven't tried it, but now I'm kind of intrigued. So I may give that a try tonight. Now, one of two things can happen for you. Basil, when you use it, could give you more energy, or it can make you feel relaxed and ready to go to bed. So note the differences in how you're feeling when you're doing this, because the adrenals are really fascinating in how the essential oils interact with them and how that then affects you. So I've known people that they are like, whoa, I'm ready to go. And other people that are like, whoa, I just want to go to bed. So note that. Okay, so a suggestion is to put basil in a bath or drink it with some lemon oil. I've heard it tastes amazing. I've actually never tried basil in water. Actually, I have, but I did capsules more often when I was dealing with overcoming adrenal fatigue. And you can also use it just on the adrenal location on your body as well. Okay, so lavender. So lavender is one of my top 5 oils, and this is why. Because of how lavender helps to balance out those cortisol levels, and you can put it over your heart. You can put it on your feet, you can inhale it, and another suggestion is in your diffuser with grapefruit. I like orange with it, but grapefruit is a really good oil to put with it as well. Okay, so another oil is Balance Blend. So Balance actually has in it an oil called Howood, which is not in any of my books because it's not an oil that we sell separately, but Howood oil, and we actually used to have in here, oh gosh, it was another oil that you can't get anymore. Some companies still sell it, but it's very, very hard to sustain. So we don't actually sell it anymore, and we changed the blend. It'll probably pop into my head at like midnight tonight. So Hoe Wood is high in linalool as well, but also the other things that are in here are very helpful. So here's my tip. When you feel stress, you're going to want to grab your Balance, your lavender, or try lavender and basil, because heck, there'd be a lot of linalool in that, and put it in your hand. And one of the things that I do, I actually have a walk-in closet. Any closet will do, but I go into a dark space where I don't get much sensory going on, and I take my hands and I rub them together and get that little heat exchange, and it gets those molecules like really, really excited, and then just inhale. There's a really good video. In fact, I think it's in a GIF. I'll probably have to find it and put it in the comments for you. But it's a breathing exercise, and it's the shape that starts out really small and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and then comes down, 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 down. And if you follow that pattern as you're breathing, it can be very, very helpful in getting oxygen into the brain and helping your blood flow better, and that will help calm you down. So get your balance on, okay? So another oil is rosemary. So this one is going to be for people that definitely experience chronic stress. Maybe you have that tired but wired feeling at night, which is a definite sign your adrenals need some love. You wake up not rested, you are so tired, but then like 8 o'clock kicks in and you're like wide awake. Saturday night, I got 4 hours of sleep. I was so tired all day. 8 o'clock, I'm like, whoa, let's do this thing. And I did not want to go to bed. In fact, I don't think I went to bed till midnight. So that's that adrenal fatigue that, still kicks in every once in a while. Or it could just be the fact that I'm a night owl and that's when I do my most creative stuff. Which, by the way, cortisol and stress does help you become more creative and concentrative. So just another thing, if it's good stress, then it will help you. Okay. So, rosemary, some tips, 1-to-1 dilution. Basically, that means 1 drop of rosemary to 1 drop fractionated coconut oil. Put it over your kidneys. This is not an internal oil. From what I'm reading, our book says it's okay, so it's possible that we source our rosemary in a way that allows it to be taken internally. But you know what? I feel like the best way to use it for our adrenals is topically. And then I haven't done any research on rosemary for pregnancy, but the other oils are fine. Balance and lavender, totally go for it if you're pregnant. Okay, so let's talk about linalool, because I actually found out something really interesting about linalool. It's found in cannabis. So then I quickly flip in my book looking at copaiba thinking maybe it's in there, and it wasn't. So I thought that was really interesting. So it's possible linalool would also be in CBD oil, which we don't sell, but I know we have a lot of people that are fans of it. So I found that to be very interesting. Okay, so things to do differently if you have any of these symptoms, which if you tell me you don't, I'm going to be skeptical. I think we all have at least 3 of those. Okay, so avoid sugary foods. This would be your donuts, your cookies, your cakes, okay? This is not necessarily your fruit that has sugar in it, okay? High fructose corn syrup. I mean, just avoid that one. Artificial sweeteners. Ugh, don't do those. Like, honestly, if you consume a lot of artificial sweeteners, and I'm going to say it, Splenda is one of them, or even a processed stevia. So we don't want to use processed stevia because that's still questionable, but maybe someone knows more about that than I do. So simple carbs. I used to love bread and butter, and actually lately I've noticed I'm craving cinnamon and sugar toast. So I might need to do something about that. Processed foods that are microwaved specifically, or especially that are microwaved, but processed foods in general have a lot of junk in them. And then hydrogenated oils. That's your canolas. And then there is a Dr. Axe article that I'm going to share where he goes into diet so that you have some of those tools. Okay, so I was a little curious if there was a connection between Candida and cortisol. Well, It's not a shocker. There is a correlation between the two, and this is what I found out. Cortisol is highly inflammatory, okay? It's one of the most inflammatory things that can go on in your body. It activates your immune system. Now, this is a good thing in some cases because that allows your immune system to respond to things like injury and wounds. But after this initial boost, it then suppresses the immune system. And then it suppresses it actually down to like 40 to 70%. So that's a pretty big suppressant below the baseline. So then it temporarily shuts down the digestive system as well. And then if you have this happen too often, then your body can't self-regulate yeast. Because yeast, we have this good bacteria in our gut, and if our digestive system shuts down, there's nothing to regulate that, and there's nothing for our immune system to keep that bad bacteria in check. So if you have chronic stress, ask yourself the question, do I have candida? We're not going to get into that, but it is definitely a connection. So I thought that was really interesting. Okay, so let me go here. I think I have one more page of notes. So, and I wanted to real quick show you in the Modern Essentials book. Okay, if you don't have that, definitely get it. It actually has a section on stress. So earlier, before we started tonight, I took a bunch of information from this book and I put it in the group under the photo album. So I've seen some of you have already seen them and liked them. I'm just asking, that stuff's for you and those in this group to get more education. Don't take those and share them with the public, okay? Because they actually came from a book and we don't want to take copyrighted information and share it with the public because we really should be buying the book. But I wanted to share that information with you. So just save it to your phone so you have it to reference. Okay, so stress, it says diffuse lavender and grapefruit in an aromatherapy or in a diffuser. You can add 10 drops of lavender to a cup of Epsom salt, which a cup of Epsom salt is an adequate amount for an adult, okay? I also like to add my oil when I'm doing it in the bathtub, just soap. Get that soap mixed up because that kind of helps those essential oils not cling and be little drops of oils in the water that then hit your skin. Because remember, water makes oils stronger, okay? And so in the book, there's chemical stress, emotional stress, environmental stress, mental, performance, and physical, and then stress due to tiredness and insomnia. So I shared a lot of that information with you already in the photo album. So I'm not going to get into the different kinds of stress and the oils that are for each kind of stress. That information is already there for you. But there was something really interesting. So additional research, this is really teeny tiny, but I wanted to read this. So nurses working in ICU, this is lavender. Nurses working in an ICU setting demonstrated decreased perception of stress when receiving a topical application of lavender and another oil I cannot pronounce, but lavender is in there. So basically, they did not feel stressed. So lavender, also subjects placed in a small soundproof room for 20 minutes were found to have reduced mental stress and increased arousal rate when exposed to the scent of lavender. Cool, huh? And okay, so that was what I wanted to share with you. So now let's talk about 2 supplements that we have that I did not know. This is what I got so excited about. And I did not know this. So we'll talk about the Serenity soft gels first, okay? So in here is an ingredient called L-theanine. Did I say that right? Anyways, so I've been kind of like, what is that? Because I'm not an herbal specialist. I'm the essential oil girl, not herbs. So I had to look into this, and I found some amazing information about this specific ingredient. And I have to say, doTERRA was genius when they created this. So this ingredient helps with relaxation, focus, and sleep, and it's possibly connected to weight loss. Found some really loose information about it with no research attached to it, but they just threw that out there, and I thought, well, that's interesting. So it lowers, okay, this is what's cool, lowers levels of brain chemicals linked to stress and anxiety, Okay, here's where we're going to get a little sciencey. So it binds to the same cell receptors as glutamate, which is like an exciting neurotransmitter. And by binding to the same cell receptors as glutamate, what it does is it's blocking the effect of glutamate, which is overactivity. So it's blocking that. So I thought that was really cool. So the cool thing about this is it doesn't have any sleeplessness or motor impairment. So you can actually take this during the day, not just at night. So it's not just a sleep aid. It can be taken during the day. Okay, so the other thing, I should have had water with me. Oh well. Is it enhances the alpha brain waves, which are associated with that wakeful relaxation that kind of occurs when you're trying to be creative or you're letting your brain wander, like daydreaming, which I was like, I don't need any help with that. But so that's kind of what that helps you with. And it also, those alpha brain waves are also present when you're in REM sleep. So I didn't really get into this because the article was really long, but I am going to share the article that I pulled this information from, that it's possible it goes into more information about the alpha brain waves. But here is what I thought was really interesting. Oh, and the other thing is it prevents abrupt rise in blood pressure. So that could be really helpful as well. I actually decided I'm going to start taking this every day. So this is the thing that got me really excited, and this is near and dear to my heart because both of my grandmothers spent the last 10 years of their life in severe brain cognitive decline. So much so that one of them, like, she forgot how to swallow, and they would have to put a feeding tube in her. She could not walk. I mean, all kinds of things like that. So Alzheimer's disease and other cognitive decline is actually something that I'm really passionate about, and I like to do a lot of research on how essential oils help. And what got me into essential oils was the fact that I could use them to support my brain in hopes that I would not spend the last 10 years of my life like my grandmothers did. I didn't want that burden and that impact on my kids. So that's why this information got me incredibly emotional. So what I found was that recent studies show it's capable, the L-theanine, is capable of preventing both biochemical and structural damage to brain cells caused by aluminum, which we know aluminum is behind the slow cognitive decline that we're seeing in older people. So I found that to be really interesting because I've heard people say that this can help support our heavy metal detoxing from the brain, but I wasn't finding anything to back that, so I didn't want to say that to you. But then I found this information and thought that was really interesting. So we get aluminum into our body by way of vaccinations, cooking our food in aluminum foil, aluminum pots and pans, fillings in our mouth. Like, there's a lot of different ways that we get heavy metals into our brain. And so by taking the Serenity soft gels, we can help facilitate our brain from getting rid of those heavy metals. So I thought that was really helpful information to know. So I wanted to share that with you. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to share with you is VitaTomax. So I actually got the opportunity to hear another wellness advocate like me talk about how she overcame adrenal fatigue, and VitaTomax was one of them. And so when I heard that, because I thought this was just an exercise stamina complex, because that's what it says. And I'm like, I'm not going to exercise. I don't need any of that. So anyways, she take 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening, or 2 in the afternoon with her Lifelong Vitality. And so I started doing that. Plus I was using basil and rosemary over my adrenals, and I was able to slowly walk myself out of adrenal fatigue. And so VitaTomax has been really helpful to me, and I didn't really know why. Again, I'm not an herbal supplement person, but what I did find out about that is that VitaTomax has ashwagandha in it, And I thought I wrote something down about this. Oh, I did. It's right here. Okay, so in the book, it talks about how ashwagandha root extract has demonstrated a potential to help reduce stress and to help lower blood serum cortisol levels. Because cortisol is released in the bloodstream. That's how it gets to where it needs to go. Okay? And since our blood goes through our heart, then it's going to get there. So it helps to lower the blood serum cortisol levels. The other thing I thought was interesting was it was shown to offer promising potential in helping to mitigate the damage to nerve cells found in conditions such as Huntington's disease, Parkinson's disease, and Alzheimer's disease. And it may improve cognitive function. So, again, that's another really good supplement to be taking. I don't take it all the time. I take it randomly. I'm the kind of person, I'll take a supplement for a month and I run out and then I don't take it for a while. But if you want to really support this chronic stress that you're dealing with, definitely want to consider the Mito2Max. I think all of these go really well with Lifelong Vitality as your base. I just can't say enough good things about them. I'll eventually do a teaching just on Lifelong Vitality. But again, like I said, I'm not a supplement person, so it's hard for me to explain supplements because I don't completely understand it myself. So, the other thing about Mito2Max, and this is long before Serenity Soft Gels came out, I noticed that Mito2Max helped me sleep better. So I didn't take it at night, it was just during the day. And so while I didn't feel more energy when I took it, I did notice that getting to bed was easier for me. And it's really hard for me to want to lay down, close my eyes, and go to sleep. If I could do that at 10 o'clock every night, I would be a total rock star at life. But I'm usually still up at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, because that's just when I just want to do stuff. So Mito2Max kind of helped me with that as well. Okay, so there you go. That is the information I have on cortisol. I'm just looking through my notes to make sure I didn't forget anything. I will share, I believe there are 3 articles that I pulled some information from, so I want to share that with you because I thought it was really good. We have Dr. Axe. We had an article from Psychology Today, and then I don't remember what the other resource was. It was another psychology website, I believe. So anyways, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and I will catch you guys next week. We're going to talk about mental health, I think is Meredith. I could be totally wrong on the schedule. I think it was that. No, actually, I don't think it is. We're either talking about oils for couples or we're talking about mental health. We'll just have to wait until next week to find out, right? But the schedule's already in the group. All right, guys, have a great evening. I'm going to go eat dinner now.